A mad priest hires a geneticist to impregnate virgin nuns with Messiah DNA. Newly moved into an Italian convent from all the way to the USA, a young nun is selected as the vessel to deliver the Messiah baby against her will. The more she digs, the more she tangles herself into the dark secrets of the convent. When she finally finds out the truth, the priest traps her. Will she be able to take a stand to free herself? Strap in, movie enthusiasts, it's recap time. We will be recapping a horror mystery movie called Immaculate from the year 2024, so let's start. The film opens with a young nun praying before stealing her convent's gate keys from the superior mother's drawer as she's asleep. The young nun runs to the main gate and struggles to open the lock. Her luck runs out when 4 evil nuns with red fabric covering their faces catch her escaping. The evil nuns grab her by the ankles and break her leg in between the gates. Moments later, she gains consciousness and lights up a match, only to find herself locked up in a coffin. The scenes are then cut to Cecilia, a young nun who's traveling from America to the outskirts of Italy. She gets held by the Italian customs, and her luggage is thoroughly checked. When they finally let Cecilia go, she is received by a priest of the convent she's joining. He takes her to the convent, which is far away from city life. There, Cecilia is welcomed by the Reverend Mother and her assistant nun, Isabel. The mother orders Isabel to show Cecilia to her room, despite her not wanting to. Isabel shows Cecilia around and reveals that their convent is built upon a catacomb, which is off limits for nuns. Since the convent looks after nuns that are close to dying, an old and delusional nun approaches Isabel. Isabel carefully takes her back to the room she has sneaked out of and warns Cecilia of her biting habit. She finally takes Cecilia to her room and gives her a last chance to run, assuming Cecilia is only trying to repent of her sins. Cecilia openly confesses that she is a devoted believer of Creator and that this is her calling. Up next, another young nun, Gwen, walks in on Cecilia while she's peeing. Gwen sits by the windows and smokes. The two introduce themselves to each other. It is revealed that Cecilia used to live in a parish that was shut down due to low attendance, and she was approached by Father Tedeschi, the priest of the current convent. The following evening, the convent holds the ceremony in which Cecilia takes her vows in front of the Pope and officially becomes a nun of the convent. Cecilia chats with Tedeschi at the dinner. As the two drink wine, Tedeschi asks Cecilia about her past. Cecilia reveals that she drowned in an iced river back when she was 12. The paramedics declared her dead for 7 minutes, but she miraculously woke up. From that day on, Cecilia found her calling and believed that she was resurrected for a purpose. Tedeschi also makes up a story of how he was a doctor, but found his calling and became a priest here. Later that night, Cecilia hears some distant chants and crying of a woman that lead her to a strange room below the convent's church. There, a woman is lying down on the ground with her stomach facing the floor. When Cecilia tries to lift her up, she is startled to see the woman's face covered with red fabric. When she steps back, she bumps into the Reverend Mother, who shows her a rusty nail that was used to crucify Messiah. She hands the nail to Cecilia and speaks of how love can be shown through suffering. Cecilia goes to the confessional room to confess how she's embarrassed herself in front of the Reverend Mother, but the priest keeps going farther into the abyss. Simultaneously, a bunch of hands drag her behind the wall, where Cecilia witnesses the hooded nuns. As they come closer to her, Cecilia wakes up and realizes it was a nightmare. She then sees an old man at her door, gazing at her. Shivering and trembling with dread, she turns on the lamp, but the man disappears. The next morning, the Reverend Mother and Isabel divide the young nuns into 2 groups, one of which is led by the Reverend Mother and the other by Isabel. Cecilia and Gwen come under Isabel's supervision. In a time-lapse, she shows them how to clean old patient nuns, dry out washed clothes by hanging them on the rope, and how to slay chickens for food. One night, she is woken by a crazy nun cutting her hair strand. Cecilia keeps calm and takes her back to her ward. When she lies her down on the bed, she comes across her feet, which have been branded by a cross sign. She finds it weird enough to discuss this with Gwen the next morning while bathing. Gwen laughs it off, saying the nun could have done worse. Cecilia vomits all of a sudden, for which she is tested. In the waiting lounge, she peeks out of the window and spots a hooded nun. Suddenly, an injured crow hits the window glass, startling Cecilia. Soon, the Reverend Mother shows up and takes her to the Pope's office, where Tedeschi and the doctor are waiting for her. The Pope asks her weird questions about her physical relationships with men, which makes her uncomfortable. When they pressurize her, she confesses that she's still an Immaculate Virgin and hasn't broken the nun code. The doctor also proves her innocence by revealing that he's checked her hymen, which is intact. Hearing this, they take out an old ultrasound machine and check on Cecilia. The ultrasound vision shows a fetus inside Cecilia, which makes the Pope believe she's the Blessed Mother, who has conceived without sin. Cecilia vents to Tedeschi about why she is the chosen one. Tedeschi validates her by recalling how she always believed her resurrection had a purpose. Cecilia still doesn't give in to the convent's delusions and goes into silence. The convent dresses her up like the Blessed Mother and showcases her in their chapel. As her second trimester starts, her condition worsens. While vomiting, one of her teeth loosens up and falls into the sink. When she walks into the dining room, everyone except Gwen stands up out of respect, thinking she's carrying the miracle baby. Later that day, Cecilia goes alone to bathe. Isabel spawns out of nowhere and attempts to drown Cecilia while constantly yelling that it should have been her instead of Cecilia. Thankfully, a group of nuns show up, pull Isabel out of the tub, and take her away. When Cecilia is taken to the doctor, she and her baby are declared healthy, but she demands to go to an actual hospital as she doesn't feel well. Father Tedeschi gaslights her into believing that going to the hospital isn't safe, so she must stay within the convent's boundaries. Cut to the next day. Cecilia takes a stroll in the convent. Simultaneously, Isabel jumps from a higher floor and commits suicide, alarming Cecilia about something that's been brewing secretly. At Isabel's funeral, Gwen raises suspicions about what's happening to Cecilia and suggests running away to get checked at a real hospital. Father Tedeschi overhears her and intervenes, which pushes Gwen's buttons. She walks up to the terrace and cusses at everyone for not paying attention to what's been happening under their noses. Tedeschi forcefully takes her away, along with another priest. The following night, Cecilia discovers a doubtful verse of the Bible behind a frame in her room, so she decides to go to Gwen and tell her this. Outside, she ends up breaking into the Pope's room and finding her files, in which she sees a newspaper cut out of an old article about Cecilia drowning and dying for 7 minutes. After seeing the proof, she's convinced that she's been targeted by the convent. Subsequently, she hears the screams of a woman, so she follows them and comes across a locked room. When she peeps from the keyhole, she catches the hooded nuns cutting off Gwen's tongue. When she's about to panic, the crazy nun shows up and gives Cecilia a voodoo doll made out of the hair strand she cut off from her head earlier. Cecilia asks her for help escaping this place, but the nun laughs and claims there is no going out. The next morning, Cecilia's cries wake up the Reverend Mother and Tedeschi, so they rush to her room. They find Cecilia bleeding to death and shouting in pain, so they decide to take her to the hospital. As she's finally out in the car with Tedeschi and the other priest, the Reverend Mother discovers a dead chicken under Cecilia's bed. Tedeschi gets a call from the mother and is informed that Cecilia is faking the bleeding by using a dead chicken, so he stops the car. Cecilia realizes she's been caught, so she runs out of the car, but the priests catch her and take her back. The Reverend Mother cleans her while scolding her about what she's done. Up next, Tedeschi ties her to a wheelchair and takes her to the room behind the church to show how he scraped Messiah blood residue from the rusty nail that the church has restored from Jerusalem. Hearing this, Cecilia realizes how big of a nut he is. Tedeschi then takes her to his secret lab under the convent, where she looks upon the contained abominations from the failed experiments over the past 2 decades. He reveals that his unorthodox methods weren't encouraged by the medical field, so he quit his job and joined the convent, where he was praised as a simmer of hope for resurrecting Messiah. He then reveals Cecilia is the first woman to successfully carry the child he's created from Messiah DNA, and takes the help of the second priest to brand her feet with a cross. They push the wheelchair back to Cecilia's room, where she falls on her knees, since she's unable to stand on her burnt feet, and bangs on the door vigorously while crying for help. She meets the Pope at the confessional and raises questions, but he is of no help. Next, the Reverend Mother and the doctor take an ultrasound test on her. When the doctor leaves, Cecilia strikes the mother with a metal cross and doesn't stop until she obliterates her face. She then goes out and uses the praying beads to strangle the Pope to death. Seeing this, the doctor flees. Cecilia goes to Tedeschi's lab, pours a chemical all over the place, and tries to burn it, but Tedeschi shows up. When Cecilia experiences labor pain, Tedeschi attacks her, but Cecilia strikes him with a flask and runs out of the lab. When she locks the door, Tedeschi reaches his hand out of the metal bars and pulls her hair. She struggles to free herself and throws the burning lighter at the chemical that's coming out of the lab. The entire lab catches fire along with Tedeschi. Cecilia quickly backs off and kills the fire that her dress has caught. Unfortunately, the burnt Tedeschi breaks open the door, so Cecilia runs down another staircase and finds herself in the catacombs. She looks for a way to escape, but ends up hiding when she sees Tedeschi coming after her. At last, she comes across a hole in the wall and tries to escape, but Tedeschi finds her and pulls her back. He cuts open her belly in order to deliver the baby, but Cecilia takes out the stolen rusty nail and slits open Tedeschi's throat. Now covered in his blood, she finally escapes the hellhole and screams her lungs out to deliver the baby. The film ends with Cecilia smashing her newborn child with a heavy rock the second she cuts the umbilical cord. Hope you liked the story recap. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Thank you for being a part of Black's Movie Recaps. If these tales of mystery and intrigue sent shivers down your spine, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Black's Movie Recap for more bone-chilling narratives. Stay tuned, and until next time, stay captivated.